big news. We're getting nerfs to some Inferno bosses soon. NicoNana, for so many of us, that boss has felt like this impossible speed check
Right.
and a huge DPS gate.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are the exact changes? How do they, directly tackle those frustrations we've all had?
Okay, so for Inferno NicoNana, there are three key adjustments. First, a 10% cut in its overall HP.
Okay.
Second, a 10% reduction in its speed.
Yeah.
And then, this is the big one, I think, the friendly match skill. That extra damage reduction it does, it's going down from like a crazy 90%.
Which felt insurmountable.
Exactly, down to 60%. That 90% was such a hurdle.
Yeah, 90% felt like hitting a brick wall every single time. So, okay, speed's down, damage reduction isn't quite as crushing.
Yeah.
What's the real, game-changing impact for players grinding this?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting.
Am I dreaming if I imagine not getting stun-locked right off the bat?
You're not dreaming. That 10% speed drop means you can actually comfortably outspeed NicoNana with more teams now.
Right.
Which is massive. It lets supports like Kachita Guard get immunity buffs up before the boss goes.
So you dodge the stuns.
You dodge the stuns, or it makes Linglow's cleanse, way more reliable.
Okay.
And that damage direction change, 90 down to 60. That's the real door opener, I think.
And so?
It means raw damage burst teams, think Rosa or Didding teams, maybe some of the New Year damage dealers, they might actually be viable for a one-shot strategy now.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Before, unless you had Shadow Sanya or very specific setups, that was incredibly tough.
Gotcha.
The HP cut, well, it helps burst teams too. Less significant if you're using DOT's damage over time, but still nice.
Okay, so NicoNana sounds like it's opening up burst strategies.
Yeah.
Making the fight less oppressive, maybe.
Yeah.
What about the other one? Terrormaton, that's always been the DOT boss, right? Huge health pool.
Exactly. Terrormaton, infamous for needing DOTs.
Are we seeing a similar shakeup there?
Well, for Inferno Terrormaton, it's getting a pretty significant 20% HP reduction.
20%.
20%. And that includes the attacking hand and the guarding hand, too.
Okay, wow.
But it's important to note, its speed and damage haven't been touched. It's purely a health pool nerf.
So what does this massive 20% health drop actually mean for strategy? Like you said, it always felt like a war of attrition, just designed for those long poison fights.
Right, and that's the fascinating part. Terrormaton was almost exclusively DOT territory because that HP pool was just immense. But shaving off 20%, that could finally make raw damage teams viable. We're talking Chloros, Lean, Gray, Didding, maybe Victor, perhaps even some Hone comps.
So more options than just poison stacking.
Exactly. It offers much more team diversity. Now, if you're already comfortable with your DOT team, this HP reduction, it's less impactful for you. But for everyone else, it broadens the meta significantly, opens it up.
It really sounds like these changes together are going to shift the feel of Inferno quite a bit, make it more accessible maybe?
I think so.
What's the general vibe from the community on this? Is this seen as the big fix people wanted?
Connecting it to the bigger picture, yeah, these nerfs, especially NicoNana's, they create a more entry-level friendly feel for Inferno.
Right.
Before, it felt like this massive brick wall, Now it kind of restores a sense of progression that maybe felt missing. It really suggests the devs are watching feedback, trying to smooth out that difficulty spike.
Makes sense.
Now, some hardcore players might argue it, dumbs down the absolute top-end challenge slightly.
There's always that perspective.
Always. But I think, on balance, it's a net positive for most players.
That's a good point. So, okay, these boss nerfs are a clear sign, a devs listened moment. But it raises the next question, doesn't it?
Which is?
The rewards. What about the loot for actually clearing these things? Are people still looking for changes there, or is making the fight easier enough?
Oh, absolutely. That conversation is still happening. While the nerfs are great, yeah, people are still vocal about wanting Inferno drop adjustments.
Like what specifically?
Things like, getting rid of those yellow rarity drops that just feel bad.
Ugh, yeah.
Or those 2 matrix bonus pieces that aren't very useful. And instead, maybe increasing the chances of getting mythic gear, the good stuff, with decent stats.
Right, the gear you actually want after beating such a tough fight.
Exactly. So, look, this is a fantastic start, really positive. But there's still room for the game's reward loop to evolve, for sure.
Still, this really feels like a moment where the devs listened. Right? It brings a lot of positive energy, opens up content that felt impossible for some. That's got to be exciting.
It really does. And honestly, seeing developers respond directly to community feedback like this, it gives a lot of hope for the game's future.
Yeah.
It makes you think, okay, our input as players, it can actually shape the experience. It encourages that critical feedback loop.
Definitely.